We're very excited to have with us a discussion between our CEO, Ali Ghodsi, and the Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI. So thank you very much both for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, excited.
Yeah, well, let's get started, and I hope we can have a fun, kind of thoughtful discussion. Databricks and OpenAI, we recently announced kind of first-in-a-kind partnership to make the OpenAI models natively available within Databricks and AgentBricks. So maybe actually starting with Ali first, what's the importance of partnering with OpenAI on this endeavor?
Yeah, every one of our enterprise customers want to use OpenAI. They all want to have the models available. They want to use them on their enterprise data. They're getting just those two things working together is non-trivial because it's like the data is sensitive. They want to have their privacy. They want to have auditing. They want to have GDPR rights, but they want to they want to use the models to build agents to get insights. So it's really customer demand that has been overwhelming.
Yeah, we're thrilled to do this. Enterprise is becoming one of our biggest focuses. We've had like 7x enterprise growth this year, and we really think that we're heading into the phase of AI where the models are getting so good that enterprises will need to use them, want to use them, bring them into their whole ecosystem, and we cannot imagine a better partner than Databricks to make that happen. So we're thrilled. We're also very happy to be a Databricks customer.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. As you said, the partnership not only is, of course, Databricks bring OpenAI models to all of our enterprise customers, but also for some time now, OpenAI has been using Databricks for data analytics. So maybe starting with Ali, a little bit, how has that partnership and that work been going?
It's awesome working. Extremely technical teams that push us to our boundaries and demand more and more of us. And it's nice that the two companies are so close geographically, so it's just easy to walk over and iterate on the product. It's one of our most demanding customers in a very good way. It made us just way, way, way better as a company.
Maybe moving separately a little bit, Sam, you and OpenAI have really revolutionized AI for consumers. How do you think on this new chapter, as you mentioned about going to enterprise, how Databricks and OpenAI together, can revolutionize AI for enterprise as well?
We always planned to do enterprise also, but the models started with a lot of problems. They started fairly weak. It was easier to get consumers to adopt them. They're coming to the point in their maturity where we are clearly seeing together huge enterprise demand and the need to figure out how to bring this technology to enterprises in a way that they can use it with all their data, with all their constraints, with all of the concerns they have about security and safety, but also to sort of quickly jump into this new world where you'll have AI doing an increasing amount of the intellectual work in an enterprise. This feels like it's really the time for it. I think in 2026, 2027, we'll see a huge transformation of how enterprises think about this. Maybe the example we can look at from 2025 is what's happened with how code gets written.
Right, yes.
And now if you imagine that for every other function of the enterprise, that'll be quite a big deal. And thrilled to get to go do that together.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I think there's a lot of context in the data that enterprises have. It's very proprietary, right? So the consumer side initially, I presume, started with okay, we have all this data in the world that's public. Mankind has created it over thousands of years. What if the AI could really sort of compress that and understand that and reason on that? But there's this data that's not available to the LLMs, which we now can bring together. So now providing the data that they have that's proprietary in the enterprise as context to the agents, which is really what they need. That I think is going to be the big unlock. So just excited to build that together.
Yeah, and on that point, both Sam and Ali on sort of the model capability reaching a point where enterprises make a lot of sense. The other piece on top of that has been this sort of agents, kind of age of agents sort of arising. And I wanted to ask both of you a little bit more on the research side. Now with AI research moving from building great frontier models to now including, hey, you mentioned context management, right? You mentioned agents and multi-agentic patterns and systems. Where do you think the future innovations across these research buckets will really kind of drive this move into enterprise?
I think there will be all of these different research buckets. We'll keep pushing on pre-training. We will, get these multi-agent systems that are doing complicated things. The models will get smarter across the board, but there are maybe kind of two axes that I would think about here. One is nothing at all to do with model intelligence or very little. It's about how tightly can you integrate it into an enterprise. all of the knowledge they have, all of the different data sources, their business processes, the way that they want to work. Like, you could bring a very brilliant physicist and drop them into Databricks, and maybe they wouldn't get that much done on the first day because they'd be missing all of that understanding. They wouldn't know how to, even they had crazy intelligence. So
It can be a problem, yeah.
I'm sure. So I think there's this one layer that the whole ecosystem together, this will not just be either of our companies, but the whole world is going to have to build kind of an integration into these models and sort of with these models. And that is a lot of work to really figure out how you're going to, teach a model to be a sort of productive employee in a particular enterprise or whatever. And then the other category, we have seen a dramatic increase in how long of a horizon a model can work on a task for.
Yeah.
So the way that I think about this is, for a particular class of task, once you've given it that sort of connection to an enterprise, that kind of integration, how long of a task does the model have a 50% chance of success at? And we have gone from, if we think about, say, coding, we've gone from 5-second tasks at the launch of GPT 3.5 to 5-minute tasks with various GPT-4 iterations to 5-hour tasks with GPT-5. And that's remarkable. But a lot of what an enterprise does is tasks that require months or years sometimes. And also, we can only currently do this in this one vertical. So lengthening the horizon that these models can work on, giving them all of the context that exists inside an enterprise or the world, and then adding that to like many more verticals, I think will be the important thrust.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one is the 50th percentile task completion time horizon is super interesting. And I think if you bring more context, so the first thing you mentioned also, with more context, you can increase that horizon, like, lengthen that. So the tasks, something that would take a human a day to do, the agents can now do. Not that we have a day yet, but I'm just saying, if you add that context, you can get that longer and longer. And one of the things that we saw that's really cool is just optimizing the context automatically. Like, we developed a technique called JEPA, which is like basically inspired by genetic algorithms, but basically gets that enterprise context that you have and gets it into the model, but automatically, so that you don't have to have humans that are sitting there and optimizing the context, so that you can live feed the relevant context that's sitting in the different docs and inside of the enterprise. So I think that's a really good metric to look at and see how, and the progression of it has been like insane, as Sam said, like from like seconds now to like many, many hours. So
Yeah.
very excited about that.
It always strikes me that the model capability today is the dumbest it will ever be for the rest of my lifetime, and that's like a incredible thought to have whenever you think about the potential applications of this thing. And as we mentioned, sort of agents getting deeper enterprise, operating in hours and hours, and potentially even taking actions in the enterprise. What are the main things to think about in terms of ensuring kind of responsible AI and governance over the tools and the data and the actions?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked very closely on that, and we've made sure that we sort of build with privacy and security from the ground up. So the whole partnership and integration builds on having the guardrails in place, making sure that you have audit logging on everything that happens in the enterprise, so that you can track, like, what did it exactly do? So you can go back and track those things, having access control, making sure, I mean, simple things for enterprises that maybe, sometimes takes for granted, but is it on brand?
Yeah.
What the model is saying? Is it recommending a competitor? Things like that. So you can build those guardrails in from the beginning into the models. And that's, so if you use GPT-5 now inside Databricks, you get all of that out of the box. So we're very excited about that.
I think this is going to become the fundamental limiter for adoption of AI in the enterprise. It won't be about the intelligence. It won't be about the price. I believe the research teams and the sort of infrastructure teams will figure that out. But I think enterprises are starting to realize very quickly just how critical this is. And it will be the limiting reagent.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Maybe this is a question for Sam, but as we and Databricks can attest, the OpenAI model, GPT-OSS, have been a game changer for a lot of our companies, both in terms of the capabilities and the use cases it can tackle, the customizability that an OpenAI model, involved. And I think OpenAI just recently released the GPT-OSS safeguards version as well. Curious, what's the future for open source and open weights from OpenAI?
There's clearly demand for it. there's honestly much less demand than there is for the most capable, models that we can run in a cloud. But I think the answer is we're, a big-ish company and we should do both. People want a model that they control and that they can run on their device or in their own system. And there needs to be some way we support that.
Yeah.
So I am curious, like we're seeing huge demand on GPT-OSS. Like people really want, especially like, an American open source model that like kind of is at the very frontier. What is OpenAI's plans going forward? Like is GPT-OSS the last?
No, I hope not. We are trying to figure out how we can someday do a model that is like the quality of GPT-5 running on a, one device open source model. We don't know how to do that yet, but we didn't think we were going to get a model as good as GPT-OSS running, in 120 billion parameters either. So again, I don't think this will be what most people want, but the people who want it really want it. And I think we'll try to find ways to offer incredible open source models.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So you could run on your, if you could get that form factor down and run on your laptop.
And we think about what it's going to look like to make a sort of, a new computer for like the AI era. I think that there's a whole bunch of reasons why that form factor is not quite right.
Yeah.
But one part of this is it should run locally a great model if you wanted to. And
So if Wi-Fi is down, you still get AI.
If Wi-Fi is down, or you're just like, hey, from a privacy perspective, I believe that privacy and freedom will be two extremely important principles for how people use AI if it becomes as important in people's lives as we expect. And the current tech industry, public policy cluster, whatever, leaves some area for concern.
Yeah.
And so I think people will want good local models.
Oh, that's super exciting. Yeah, looking forward to that future.
Maybe this is a question for Ali, but we as a community today are so focused on vibe coding and, these small kind of agentic apps in the short term. What are we underestimating about this technology in the long term, especially for the enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam touched on this. I think we were going to see it. We're going to have coworkers that are agents, and there's so many different aspects of the work that they're going to be involved in. Like even on coding now, we're like just thinking about, okay, can it produce the code? But, coding at Databricks is only 20% of what R&D or an engineer does. We measured it. It's only 20% of their time. What are they doing the rest of the time? But it's like design docs, it's PRDs, it's, discussions, meetings. But every one of them, when you start looking at it, it's like there's a place for agents too. And actually, if agents were involved in the whole process, it would probably also make the coding much, much, much better. It's context that's missing when they're writing the code. So we're going to see, I think end to end for, all of this kind of productive work. We're going to see them show up and help accelerate everything that's happening inside of the enterprise. And it's going to happen, slowly. It'll take time, but that task horizon is just getting longer and longer and longer, which means they can take on more and more complicated tasks over time. So it's exciting times.
Yeah. And then maybe Sam, for you, I think you've said before that we're in this like once in a history kind of transition, right? And the world is changing much faster than we think. Maybe if you zoom out 5-10 years, what's like the most, surprising institution, right? Schools, cities, religions, hospitals that you think will look unrecognizable, right? With those generations.
I think once in history is too big of a statement.
Okay,
I could say once in a generation.
Once in a generation, yeah.
I think the economy changes a lot. I don't think we're gonna like run out of meaning or purpose or fulfillment or anything like that. I think humans have such main character energy. We're so able to like not care about what the machines do. Like already, GPT-5 is probably smarter than most people, and they seem entirely unbothered. I feel pretty unbothered, even though I'm like, oh, it's a toast or whatever. So I don't think we have any of those crises of meanings in quite the way that, or I'm less convinced. Maybe we do. Future's hard to predict. I'm less convinced than other people are. But the economy feels like it should just absolutely radically transform, and maybe the whole maybe the structure of it changes in a pretty big way.
Any predictions or thoughts on your end on this, Ali?
I think, Sam has, he's the ones who touched on those are excellent. I'll give boring enterprise, what I see in my kind of vicinity, which is, I think, there's like this whole, in sales, for instance, in B2B organizations, there's sales engineering, but I think that's actually even more than R&D, this kind of technology agents is applicable there. The marketing function inside of a B2B function, like there's so much that the agents are already doing at Databricks, like, in the marketing funnel, like preparing campaigns and preparing the material that's for the different audiences, all that's already being done by agents. So I think we're going to see that change. A lot of the inside of an enterprise like Databricks, there's so many different ops functions, and the people that basically are analysts, they're very smart people with financial backgrounds. They're typically sitting in Excel every day. A lot of that is already being completely transformed, and we're going to see that actually be even more revolutionized. So at least when I look at inside of a company like Databricks, it's pretty much every function is going to be completely transformed. That doesn't answer the society question, but there's a lot of enterprises out there that kind of a little bit look like Databricks, and I think already they're going to be vastly different in 5 years or maybe 3.
Yeah. And maybe, I know we talk about 5-10 years from now, but what are the most exciting enterprise AI use cases that you both see today?
I mean, there's so many, and it starts like we're taking on the smaller tasks. So like when you zoom in, it might not look like that exciting, but it's like what Sam said with the task horizons. But already like one thing that I thought was interesting, AstraZeneca had a use case with agents that basically sift through 400,000 documents, which is something no human could have done.
Yeah.
And it's in finance, we have a lot of financial organizations that are now going through all of the SEC filings, all the related documents, and they're gleaning out alpha for investments that then they're giving to analysts that are then using them, humans that are using them. But it's just, this would be extremely tedious. Human would have to do that before, and now it's just, we take it for granted. It's like, yeah, of course, sift through all those thousands of pages and give back the response quickly to me. In insurance, we're seeing it, underwriting, again, like in the healthcare space, if you think about it, if you go to a hospital, there's like thousands of pages of papers that you have to sign that are produced for every hospital visit. And I don't know if anyone ever even looks up those. But now in the healthcare sector, they're having agents. More and more companies and startups are having actually all of that being fed to LLMs that are going through it and, extracting tidbits, figuring out risk. So much of society is going to be changed. But it's going to happen, as you said, with those, simpler and simpler tasks that get more and more complicated and, over time increases.
I super agree with that answer, but just to add 2 other directions I find very interesting. Obviously, it's great that people are doing things, faster and better and cheaper. But the categories of things that you just wouldn't do at all before AI, and you already touched on this, but things that you just simply couldn't do are both interesting to me. So there's more focus on stuff you couldn't do, like read 4,000 pages of documents. And I think that's amazing that AI is just now churning through this. And it's so superhuman at literature search as a specific example of what that's meant. But this wouldn't do category just doesn't get as much attention. So I'll use coding again because it's the kind of thing I have the best personal mental model for. Coders, they can do their work faster, but there's just features they would never try. That would be at the bottom of someone's forever. I will never do that. I'm just not ever going to get there. And now if I can just like kick off one extra agent, I am willing to do that. So seeing there's just like, there were these good ideas that you just wouldn't do. And if you make the activation energy low enough, you make it cheap enough, you just say, okay, fine, I'll try it. That's been like an interesting thing for me to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So the ability to launch async parallel, basically agentic jobs, right? Really changes how you think about the process of actually doing work, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool because it's so fast and you can do so much with it. But now I feel like I'm so frustrated. It's like, why is it not similar? Why is it taking so long? It's like a minute to write 20,000 lines.
This is an area that I think we as an industry are underinvested in, is how we make this stuff dramatically faster.
Yeah, 100%.
As we're going to push on that.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen a Databricks where like latency is king, right? For any interactive experience, whether it be a dashboard, and the same principle applies to agents as well.
Industry took a bet that, which I think was the right bet if you had to do one or the other, which is we were going to prioritize cost per token over, token to token latency, and designed most hardware that way. There's clearly demand for a much higher cost per token and a much lower latency.
Interesting. Is that now we're getting peeks into the hardware you're building?
The hardware that we'll eventually build. Not the first thing we'll do, but we want to do that at some point.
Yeah, great. We have a lot of folks dialing in here from we're data scientists or data engineers or some even CEOs and leaders at these enterprise companies. With this sort of generative AI revolution, maybe what's like one thing that CEO or leaders should do like immediately now to like prepare yourself, right, for this wave that's already here and it's like continuing to roll forward?
I think I'll start with the boring stuff because it's people they're excited about what they can accomplish with AI, which is great. But before you get there, you have to have a good data foundation, and you have to make sure that you can secure it, and you can make sure that you have the right guardrails in place. And then also getting access to as much of your data in the enterprise. There's a lot of data that's siloed and tucked away. Like that's sitting in a database that's not accessible, or that's, actually not even, this is on premise, it's not in the cloud, and so on. So making sure that you just can get all of that in one place, so that it's accessible as context to the AI will be kind of like that differentiator, whether the AI immediately gets it right, whether it's within the task horizon or whether it's, it's just trying many, many things because you just didn't give it that little context that's sitting tucked away in that siloed data set.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think that's it sounds so boring, but it's so important to get in this work.
Yeah. And we've seen sort of natural language is great, but it's also slightly ambiguous. So, when our Ali knows this, or when our customers ask, hey, please compute the churn for me. Well, what is churn? Like, we're like, it's really dependent on the enterprise context and the enterprise use case.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is, that definition exists somewhere in the organization, in a company, how you define revenue or how you define churn, or when a fiscal year starts, or what the quarters are. So it's just, can you find that as a context? Is the AI connected to that? If it is, it will be able to figure it out because the models are so freaking smart now, and they're getting smarter. Every release that comes, they're getting smarter and smarter. So we just have to make sure we can feed that context out.
There's a little bit debate raging now on like whether these agent patterns are just agents and tools in a loop, or whether you got to hand engineer all the individual pieces of the agents and wire them into some deterministic kind of workflow. Curious what you see.
If the models can like do novel math, they're certainly smart enough to figure out how to do this out without hand engineering. It may take us a little bit of time, and again, you do need, in the same way that an employee needs some training, needs to know where to look, where the enterprise stuff is, you'll have to like make that knowledge available, but they will not need custom training for it.
Yeah, totally agree. Isn't that a bitter lesson?
It is a bitter lesson at play.
A bitter lesson. Like, it's like, and we've seen it with most of the agents that people are building. The successful agents, when the people built them, talk about it, it's like, hey, I actually did the simplest thing. I didn't have lots of agents that call each other and lots of hand-tuned things. I just let the AI figure it out.
Yeah, great. Thank you both for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. For the folks who are dialing in here, if you want to get ready and get started using OpenAI on Databricks, please check out AI Playground and also our AgentBricks product to get started building agents with OpenAI and the GPT-5 models on Databricks. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Great discussion.
Thank you.